Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to my new video series that I'm going to be doing in regarding my football memorabilia collection. I've been asked many a times if I would ever do and share with people my collection of West Ham and general football memorabilia. So this is the first video I'm going to do in this series. And the best thing for me to do is probably, if I think, where do I start? Because I've got literally thousands of different individual pieces of football memorabilia and West Ham paraphernalia for me to share. So to start with, I'm going to go back to the very beginning, and it basically started as a little kid. Obviously, I was lucky enough to be taken to games as a little boy in the mid-70s. My uncle got our first season ticket in 1977. I was only 7 years old then. 7 going on 8, started going to games. My uncle would get a programme. I'd probably take a look at it to begin with, and generally it progressed. And then the first programme that I kept and started collecting from was actually from this game here, West Ham v Liverpool, April 1978, and it was quite a big game in West Ham's history. West Ham needed to win to stay up. Liverpool were reigning European champions. I don't think they won the league that year, but they were going onwards towards to the European Cup final against Bruges at Wembley. I'd never seen so many people at a football game before as a little kid. They had to close the gates before the game. And I remember standing in the West Stand. There was a balcony you could look out over the forecourt. We sat up a tier, block A, row U, right in the tight corner. But on the balcony, I could stand there with my cup of tea. My uncle would sit me on. There was like a shelf there. I could look out over the forecourt and just see the mass of fans trying to get in, and then those that couldn't get in were being pushed back out through the gates onto Green Street. West Ham lost. We got relegated. Such is life. I suppose it was something I had to get used to as a West Ham fan. Something we all had to get used to. But this was the first programme I'd kept and looked after. My uncle had kept the programmes, but this one I took home and I managed to look after it. And that was it. This was just the very start, the first thing I ever collected in regards to West Ham. And collecting programmes easy for kids. If you've got kids out there and they want to start collecting stuff, even though be warned, it does end up sometimes it can go out, grow and grow and grow and get out of hand, as possibly this has done. But programmes are a great way of starting, and these were brilliant, these little programmes, because they'd fit into your pocket. They weren't full of adverts. They told you everything realistically you needed to know. Previous games we played, as you can see, we'd beat Derby County 3-0 there a couple of weeks before a game that I was at. Pop Robson got a couple of goals. The middle pages was always the lineup and the recent results and the league at the moment. West Ham were basically towards the bottom, people. Ham's history, this was how I started getting into West Ham. Reading this one page, it covered games played in 3 different seasons, 10 years, 20 years and 30 years ago. And that was my gateway into understanding the history of West Ham and the players that had came beforehand. Also, it's a good form of resource now to look back at some of the youth players that grew up back then and then broke into the first team. And then you had your little pen pick, as we'd call it, bit of info. John McDowell there, right back for West Ham, who was a good servant, came through the youth ranks before we sold him on to Norwich, I believe, in 1979, after we failed to get promoted in that season. These little programmes were by far the best. We fast forward to modern day now. We got Chelsea programme from this season, and if you look, I still collect programmes, but I mean, there's some good articles in here. It's more magazine style, but it is just packed full, which annoys me, of adverts as well. And there's a lot of stuff here that we don't really need to know about. If the club ever wanted to bring back the little program, I'm sure that they'll sell far more of them than they do of these. But that's just my opinion. The next thing then I started collecting, which I'm sure all kids did, was football magazines. Now, the one I really collected as a kid, Match Weekly, and this is issue 1 from 1979, September. It's got Kevin Keegan on the front, playing against Sweden. The reason why I collected matches, I used to get Shoot and Match Weekly, but I'd never, as a kid growing up, we didn't have a lot of room, and my mum would only allow me to keep one magazine. So one I used to have to throw out, one I could keep. So because I had issue number 1 of Match Weekly, I then started collecting constantly all the way up to the point that I think I've got from 1979 to 1987 complete. Obviously I was 17 going on 18 then, and I felt I was a bit too old to be buying Match Weekly. But as a kid, I loved this magazine growing up. This was my favourite. More than Shoot, even though I did used to read both and get both, and I'll move on to Shoot in a minute. Much in the same way as Shoot, you get the team photos you can see is the Manchester City team. Joe Corrigan in goal. I remember you got Tommy Caton with the fuzzy hair up at the back. Futcher, Paul Power, Barry Silkman, old Silky, the football agent now, has a lot to deal with West Ham. But then I used to love these, the old Match Facts. These two here, Gary Owen and Peter Barnes, both Man City players, sold for big money to West Brom at the time. West Brom were a really decent team, finishing in the top 3 or 4 of Division 1 as it was back then. Would play Europe, captained by John Weil, who was a blood and guts defender. You had the action shots. There's one, look, I've just opened it up. Jimmy Neighbour, Norwich City, would go on to play for West Ham. And there's Ian Wallace of Scotland, Coventry City, who ended up playing for Forest. Well known for his massive ginger curly hair, which I'm reliably informed he's bald as a coot now. Just to show them what it is. This is the team teaser where you had to find the team. You can see I've totally devalued this issue 1 of Match Weekly, probably by filling it in. But for me, I prefer this to see this going on. I buy programs if people wrote on them. I still buy old football magazines if people wrote on them. It don't bother me, because for me as a kid, this is what it was all about. It wasn't about wrapping it up in plastic, putting it away, never to be touched. It was about taking part, doing the quizzes. You can see I had a go. Let's see if we can do half time. I've not got my glasses on, sorry about that. Perhaps we'll pick that up. Picture of Pop Robson there. Here you go, the first issue. So, you used to get the nice little news in briefs. I used to read these magazines from the back to front, and really loved. I think it was a Thursday when they come out. I would skip down to Reggie's Newsagents on the corner of Ling Road, for those that know the Canning Town area. Soccer in the USA. So that was obviously the MLS. A lot of English players went out to the MLS. I'll cover that in future videos. And then we've got Ron Atkinson writing for the magazine. I don't know if it was aimed at kids, because I was, being a kid, I'm not sure. But one thing actually I will point out, I did love the cutting bit, which was the Match Facts, where every game the players were marked out of 10. And when we say every game, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, all the way. And the beauty of that is, this is how I got to learn the names of players in the lower leagues, possible players. I mean, and I would read all of these results and take them in. Match Weekly, that was. Next, we'll move on to Shoot. Now, as I say, I didn't keep my Shoot magazines from when I was a kid. But as I've got older, I've then started buying up as and when. And what I've got here is a binder. This is a binder. This is the first year's edition of Shoot magazine. Shoot started 1970, 1969. And look who's on the front cover. Bobby Moore. You had the league ladders for the first time. For those that don't know what league ladders were, they were little bits of cardboard. You'd get the back in with divisions 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'd get with the Scottish teams as well. And then what you would do is they had little tear out strips with each team's names, and you would have to slot the name in each week for the league position, pin it up on your bedroom wall. I just wish I'd kept them as a kid. I used to have them, I used to love them, I used to mark it off. Where West Ham were Division 2, and I used to have to fill that in with the likes of Preston and Barnsley and other such great wonderful teams. So this is issue 1 of Shoot magazine. Bobby Moore writes for the magazine as well. What I love about buying old magazine is, especially with someone who likes the history of football, is you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot. A lot of it's with the little snippets. So what we've got is Hammer with the most, which is the best goal I've ever scored. Jeff Hurst pondered my question. Jeff Hurst pondered my question. Hammer Hurst is the soccer hotshot with the most in his head and both boots. Wasn't he England's hat-trick hero of the last World Cup? But Jeff surprised me by dismissing those memorable goals as very important. Obviously, as he said on television, but they weren't the best that he scored. The goal that he chooses as the best he scored was the one that took West Ham to Wembley in 1964. But as you know, Bobby Moore deserves equally the credit. Just 10 minutes to go in the Cup semi-final at Hillsborough, Hammers were 2-1 up. Manchester United were attacking strongly and looked like they were going to equalise. Moore won the ball in his own half, beat Charlton and Paddy Crean, made a lob. Jeff was running at top speed and 30 yards from goal when he met the ball, sweeping it under his control, took it forward for 3 strides with perfect aim, timing, slammed in the low drive with such speed that United keeper hardly saw it. So there you go, Jeff Hurst telling you his best goal he ever scored was, I think you can see it on YouTube if you look up West Ham 3, Manchester United 1, FA Cup semi-final 1964. Ronnie Boyce scored an absolute screamer, I believe, as well when West Ham beat the Man United. I'm not sure about best, but definitely Law and Charlton were playing in that game, and the weather was atrocious at Hillsborough. Look at that. But that's Shoot magazine. What I've also kept is, I'll just pull this over. It's my collection of Shoot annuals. Now this is the first one that I kept. I've since progressed the collection. I've only got about 2 or 3 missing from when it first started up until the mid-80s or into the 1990s. It's what you'd get for Christmas. And we'll start here, 1978. Look at that picture of John Lowell, Bobby Gould, the happy wanderer. Highlighting the fact that all the different clubs he played for, and that Gould was full of pride for West Ham team boss John Lowell and Don Howe, who I think he possibly played for West Brom. It gives his West Ham record, played 46 times and scored 15 goals. That's not a bad return from the Gould father, as he's now known. I'm sure we used to get stories like this that you wouldn't get. I used to love these. The Derby County story. Wembley win lifts the Gypsies curse. And that basically tells you all about Derby's first win at Wembley. And obviously they were a club that were cursed by gypsies. Back again. We've got Jimmy Neighbour again. Neighbours. Happy Family, Mervyn Day, and then a bit of focus on the Americans. So it was an introduction to the soccer and the MLS, as it was, whatever it was, NSL I think they called it, the National Soccer League. And then we go here. One of my first favourite foreign players, or my first favourite, Roberto Rivellino. Bit of feature on him, played for Botafogo, but also he was the best player on Top Trumps card set. I wish I had a copy. I used to have them as a kid, the old Top Trumps cards. But I always remember Rivellino because he had more international caps than any other player in that card. So if you got him dealt to you, you knew you was on a winner. Little bit on Gerd Muller. You can see a wealth of information, not just West Ham, but on all different players and clubs. And it's just something. There's another West Ham connection. That's Peter Grote here, Lincoln City. Of course, started his career with West Ham United, and that's with his 4-year-old sons. And then, obviously, you had your quizzes. So that's just a brief glimpse of some of my football collection, and I hope to bring you more as the weeks go on and expand. As I expand my collection from all different types of books, programs, cups, figures, pictures, and everything else. Thanks for watching. If you like what you've seen, like, subscribe if you want. You ain't got to, but it's probably easy for you to find my videos in the future. Until next time, thanks for watching.